Hello, I am Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO, and I am grateful you are here, that you chose to spend time with us where week after week I speak to the most amazing leaders who share their insights with you. And I just know, and you'll hear me during the conversation, I'll just say, oh, that was so inspiring. So I hope that comes through to you, whether you listen on your favorite podcast platform or watch us over on YouTube. And just know I put out this amazing resource to help and partner with C suite leaders so they can navigate their challenges and opportunities with confidence. And this week's guest is Dr. John Serri, who is the Chief Executive Officer and co founder of EyeQue Corporation, a company focused on making vision care accessible through innovative telemedicine solutions. He's held the CEO position since November of 2021, having previously served as president from September 2019 to 2021 November, and as chief technical officer and chief operations officer since the company's inception. EyeQue Corporation focuses on research and product development related to assessing human vision. The company aims to help the world see more clearly through the creation and distribution of innovative technologies that can be used at home, through telemedicine, or at a clinic. Such noble work, and welcome to the show, John.
Well, thank you, Deb, for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be here.
And I am as well. I mean, I have been reaching out to leaders because I know every one of you has some amazing insights. But when John and I got to talking, we said, oh, we have more in common. First of all, we're highly technical people, and you'll learn he is super smart, highly educated. And also, we have commonality from New Jersey. So he has spent time in Jersey. I'm a Jersey girl. So we talked Jersey for a little while and really got to know each other. But I am going to hand the mic to him because he's got an amazing backstory, and we're going to get into his insights and hopefully inspires you. So, John, take it away.
Okay. One of the things is, let me say a little bit about myself, is ever since I was really my first memories, I was inherently a scientist. As a kid, I was not good at anything except science. And somehow I had this weird memory. I could read science books and memorize them. And I was terrible at everything else. I was just a terrible student at school. They didn't know what to do with me. Was he a smart kid, or was he bored, or was he what? So I was sort of a problem child. No one ever expected anything from me. Basically I came from a first generation family, Italian family. And the goal was just, Johnny, don't get into trouble. That was the main emphasis of my upbringing. There was absolutely no expectations. So I've been on a long path, and I always had this desire to do science. And my head settled down, and I won't go into it because it would take more than a half an hour to tell you what made me serious about stuff. But I started getting very serious late in high school, and I began to get good at mathematics. I flunked mathematics all through being a kid, and all of a sudden, in a year, I went from a failure in math to being the best student in my high school in mathematics. It's kind of weird. So I ended up going to the university, and I studied physics, math, and chemistry. And I love them all, but physics was wonderful. And the thing about physics is it teaches you how to solve problems. The amazing thing is, think about it, think about the planets orbiting the sun and little things falling off of the table. It's the same principles that define all of these different things. And to me, that was a wild idea, that you can have some simple principles and do all sorts of different things with that. It didn't require a lot of memory. It just required applying ideas in a creative way. And that was my approach all through life. So, I went to MIT for my PhD in atomic physics. And it was an incredible experience. Difficult, rewarding. It took me to my limits. I had imposter syndrome. It's very common at MIT, where you say, how the heck am I here? And my mentor was a postdoc at the time. He actually won the Nobel Prize. He taught me a lot of the nuts and bolts in experimental physics. He won the Nobel Prize in 1997. And my thesis advisor, who should have won the Nobel Prize as well, was incredibly pushy, demanding. He made my life miserable in many ways, but he was supportive and he actually helped me through difficult periods. And it made me realize one of the things in life is to appreciate the people that helped you. And I didn't really fully appreciate that until I was much further along in life. I look back and I go, oh my gosh, you know, I have been close to the falling off the cliff into oblivion a number of times in my life. And there have been people who went out of the way to save me. And I think that's true for everyone, for every entrepreneur, every successful person has people helping them. You don't do it on your own. That's one of the big things. So, I continued going through this academic path, but, I grew up as a poor kid. My parents had no money, very little money. And so what I ended up doing was I said, I have to go into industry. I got to make some money. I got to do something. I can't just be an academic. And so I ended up at Bell Laboratories, which you know from New Jersey. In fact, you were in the same neighborhood as Bell Laboratories. I went there, worked there, and I found myself quickly getting involved in more of the business of AT&T rather than of just the physics. And I had naturally, I'm a generalist. So I got involved in different problems, and I can solve problems quickly. And I like tutoring people, and I like leading people. So I ended up moving up the management chain at AT&T, and I ended up working then in big government projects, classified. So you can't go into any of those details here, but it was extremely political type environment, and I learned so much from that about things. And I said, wait a second, I do not want to become this political type of animal. And there are people there whose goal is in life is to look as best as they can with the minimum amount of effort. And that just wasn't in my heart. My heart was still to go back into science and technology. And I ended up in Silicon Valley, which was, wonderful for me. The attitude. And so anybody thinking about, West Coast versus East Coast, I'd be glad to talk to you about the contrasts. There's pluses and minuses to both. So I ended up working in aerospace business. I ended up developing a large satellite system. It went on in various different projects. And then I ended up at EyeQue. So that's kind of my backstory that I can go with. And I won't go on any further because I know there's just so much time we have.
You know what? It's my show. I can go long if I want to.
Okay.
Yeah, and the funny thing was that again, I'm just going to talk about it. And again, I don't know if people pick up my accent, but as I was meeting John, I said, "Oh my God, where are you from? I know that accent. Are you from Jersey or New York?" And he says, "Yes." And then we started talking about home and such like that. I mean, it was my home for many years, and it's interesting how when we connect with humanity, how our paths cross. I actually did some work at Bell Labs. I went to school with those sons and daughters of those really smart people. And oh my, it was tough to compete. I doubt myself sometimes, but when you're amongst the smartest, just like you experienced at MIT, yeah, it's easy to doubt your capability, but maybe you're a rock star in a completely different environment. So I'm going to like pay homage to you. You are so smart. Thank you.
Oh,
And thank you for all your contributions. But I think one of the things you said early on that was really, really interesting, again, it's a sore point with me, is that you started out a little bit active, maybe a troublemaker, maybe you didn't know the rules, maybe you didn't get the grades that everybody expected, you didn't conform, and hence society labels you. And then what happened? Things happen, the minds mature, things make sense, and then all of a sudden you become a rock star and are, killing it when it comes to math and science. I will say I'm the same way. And it's really a tough thing when people label you. And then sometimes we assume those labels that I'm not going to amount to much, and look at where you are now. Somehow you found your lane in the time frame that made sense for you.
yeah, it was a very strange thing. It was, I'm sure there was a change in body chemistry that went on when you become a teenager. And there were people who said things like, is this the John Serri? Are you John Serri? Like they said, did you grow a brain overnight? So I go, I don't know, it just these things happen. But there was also an event that triggered me to become serious. I can get into that. So,
Let's.
I grew up, I was living in the Bronx in New York, and my father ran a warehouse. It was a Venetian glass warehouse. He
Mhm.
himself is Venetian. And so what they would do is they would import this wonderful Murano glass from Venice, and then they ship it out to different places. So I was one of my summer jobs was to work as a packer in that place. And this was before there was styrofoam. Now you pack things in styrofoam and these nice plastic bags. When I was there was like these wood shavings that you had to pack stuff in. It was called, I think, Excelsior. What's weird about it was, I had to pack and my arms were bleeding after a day because of the blisters from the wood hitting your skin. And I'm miserable at the job, and I hated it. I was undisciplined to begin with, and my father himself was a disciplinarian. So here I am. One day I'm riding on the subway, and my arms are bleeding, and I'm going, "Gee, what a loser I am." And then a guy gets on the subway. He's in a nice suit, and well, he was carrying this briefcase. People used to use briefcases back then. And I looked at him, and I looked at me, and I said, I'd rather be him than me. And at the same day, the boss of the business, of the import export glass business, he came to me and says, "Hey, Johnny, you know what? You're a good kid. I tell you what, I'm going to double your salary. I'm going to give you $3 an hour, okay? And you don't have to go back to school. What's the purpose of school?" So I said, "Mr. Camarino, no, no, thank you. I think I'll at least go back to school for a while." So I was encouraged actually to drop out of high school and to become a laborer. And that's kind of stuff. And I had interactions like growing up there, opportunities to join the mafia, because there was an element of that in the Bronx at that point. So, I've been through all of these kind of contrasty worlds that it ends up I have a very different perspective than I think a lot of typical entrepreneurs. I don't fit the profile of your typical business development, VC seeking entrepreneur. I'm a different kind of spirit, which I think I can add value to help people as they go through the path based on
Yeah,
my experiences.
but who has the right to label or assign characteristics to what an entrepreneur is? It is because of our diverse thinking and perspective that we bring forward that people might say we're crazy with these new ideas. Or eventually we become some of the most respected people because we stand out, we don't conform, we make our own decisions, and we then become maybe the new normal versus just stay out of trouble. It's things like that.
That's absolutely true. When no one has the same exact path. And so you can read all these business books and you want to be an entrepreneur or how I made $1 million doing this or that. So you can get advice, but I can tell you this, everybody's path is different. Everybody's path is unique. And you have to go, there's an element of luck, okay, in everything. There's an element of luck in life. There's an element of um, taking advantage of those lucky opportunities that come by, and that generally is hard work. There's a number of things that I think you need to be successful, and no one really teaches you that. You kind of learn it from experience. So a lot of times, people ask me about, uh, should I start a company? And a lot of times you need to have a certain level of maturity before you can really pull it off. So there is an element of kid just coming out of high school who's got some great ideas, and there's some people who've been phenomenally successful after a couple of years at college. You look at Bill Gates, you look at Mark Zuckerberg, but in general, for most people, you're not going to become Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates. There's a handful of those people. but you generally need to understand how business works, how to treat people, how to read people, because that's a big part of it. Is there's one needs to develop a BS detection meter. BS, you know what I mean,
Yes, I
probably.
do.
So there's all of these traits that happens, and you end up really following a path that you have to go with your own gut, your own instinct as to the way to proceed.
So, what is inspiring about this, and while I always set a high bar for myself and, oh, I want to be this and I want to go viral and I need this many clients and such, when I look back and see where I have come from and the legacy and my family and a good marriage and all of that and the people I've affected along the way, one could say I'm wildly successful. And then I keep raising the bar a little bit higher, but I'm not viral. I haven't had that viral moment. I don't have more inbounds than my outbound reach. But you know what? I think what you shared is that it happens at the right time and maturity and arriving at a place to ask the right questions. So, I mean, I think this is a really important moment for everybody when you're trying to compare yourself to the Joneses. You set your own yardstick and timeline for what you want to do and the success that you're going to realize. So, I appreciate those inspiring comments from you.
You know, I think that you have to be open. Like opportunity comes in ways that you don't expect it. You're doing something in a company and you have, say, a business plan. I'm going to market this way, I'm going to advertise that way. But someone from left field or some opportunity that you never thought of comes in and you go, you have to be flexible and say, yeah, maybe that's a better way to proceed. So that flexibility is so important. It's that opportunity that comes. So a lot of times you're not going to know exactly what will be the thing that makes you wildly successful. It may come in some strange place, in a strange way, and so you have to be kind of flexible for that and open up. You know, I think you said something about setting goals, and I think you have to set goals. You need a roadmap, right? You need something to help guide you. You want to live your life? How do you want to build a company? But generally, there's so many factors coming in, hitting you, that you're going to deviate from the roadmap. And you have to be open to those deviations that will inevitably come.
And I agree. And you know what? I'm resilient enough and I've got a support system. I've got some cheerleaders along the way that are kind of look at me funny. You sure you want to do that? And if I still have conviction this is the right thing to do, I keep going. Um, and one of the things I've had to learn as a business owner, trying to become a more mature business owner, is be okay with the uncertainty. Can't plan out everything. We as engineers and scientists try to plan out every detail. We're rewarded to mitigate risk. But the entrepreneurial journey is just ever so slightly different. You got to have a plan, but move with that uncertainty and take a few more risks versus what the
Well,
scientific method tells you, you know?
yeah, this is a very important point about what level of risk do you take
Mhm,
on
mhm.
things. You know, in a business, you will rarely see big corporations led by lawyers, I believe. Okay. And in a way, that's because lawyers, and I hope I'm not offending any lawyers listening to this,
Oh,
but
they don't have to
they
listen.
don't have to
Keep
listen.
going.
You, you're taught to be risk averse. When you
Yeah.
look at something, you say, what can go wrong? What can happen? When you're an entrepreneur, you have to say, what can go right? What you have to, you have to be the glass is half full rather than half empty kind of approach. And that does mean taking risks. And you have to, when you build up a team, you need to include people who are willing to take those risks. Sometimes it means cutting corners. Sometimes, and you got to be careful about this, especially it's becoming more of an issue. The fake it till you make it thing. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that because, especially in the medical device area, you don't want to fake it until you make it. But there are different interpretations of regulations, and you need to really explore those things and interpret them in a way to help promote your business. So that in itself, one of the things about EyeQue is it's when you're doing a disruption, in something related to uh, human health, which vision is part of that, you have to really look at the regulatory landscape and how interpret it and work your way through that. It's a very important piece. And I think more and more that's going to be impacting more industries because unfortunately the world is getting more regulated. If we go to the global level, societies tend to, as they evolve, they introduce more and more regulations. And in fact, one of the reasons societies begin to collapse is they become so overregulated, nobody can do anything. So, you have to be dealing with those factors, and that's becoming a big part of things. And I actually think that's slowing down uh, um, people moving into startup companies. Now, I don't have the statistics on it. I'm busy trying to do my own thing, but I'm wondering what the rate of startups is recently, because if you look at the various economic factors and regulatory factors that hits every company virtually, people are becoming more reluctant to jump out and take those risks. And I think that's an important area that needs to be addressed.
And how can we rekindle the American dream and that pioneerism to be able to continue? And you never know what's going to be on the other side of that mountain. I would love to shine a light, though, on your company, EyeQue. And I know while we may have talked about it a little bit in our conversation, I'd love for you just to share a little bit about this company's purpose and some of the innovation
Yeah.
that it brings to the healthcare industry.
So, IQ, um, usually every founder has the story. And, I founded a company with an entrepreneur who was very, very successful. He created the largest online eyeglass company, probably in the US, and is the first. And he became a billionaire doing it. Uh, and him and I were friends through our wives. And he was a physics guy, sort of, and he liked me to tell him about cosmology and all the, what's happening in the universe and what's happening in some various fields of physics. We used to talk about all these sorts of interesting topics, and we became friends. And after a couple of years, he approached me and says, John, I sell glasses online. Can I sell eye tests online? So we talked about it for a while. And yeah, we said, you could. Let's give it a try. So we ended up forming the company. And again, it was done on a whim. We were at some party, and I think both of us drank too much. Then we decided to, why not do it? We realized we can make some of these devices out of plastic. They would cost $1 or $2 a piece to manufacture. And we said, okay, let's do it. And so we formed a company. And one of the things about EyeQue is, as a story is, we never went the traditional VC route because he, as a billionaire, he funded a company. I didn't have to go and do, elevator pitches and all of that. I was just able to work on the solution. And my God, that's, if you have that opportunity in life, take it. And this man, he was a true inspiration. He passed away in 2021 from a very serious disease. And up until the very end, he encouraged me to just keep moving forward with the company. And part of my feeling is to keep pushing the company forward to help him. Now, to get to the point of what's disruptive. So if you take a little device attached to a smartphone, and now you can make measurements that normally you had to go to your eye doctor for, you are causing economic disruption by doing that. The point is that a doctor will say, well, wait a second, if you go and take this test that EyeQue has, gee, you may not come visit me for a full eye exam. So there's a full spectrum of issues that rise from that. And there've been articles written about the United States is extremely regulated in the vision care area. So we went right into it full bore. And not many people have attempted to do this. We're the only ones kind of still around that attempted to do it. So we we had to be very fine line in defining what the device can do. It doesn't give prescriptions. It's a measurement device of refraction. There's a difference. A prescription is a order, a thing written by a licensed practitioner in something. But we provided a tool to do that, but someone could do it at home. This was a new spin on it. Now, the opportunity is huge. And one of the things with EyeQue is you can help a large fraction of the population. The way the traditional eye care is set up in the United States today is if you can afford it, you can get very good eye care. You go to the eye doctor, they check your vision, they check for glaucoma, they check for any problems with your retina, they check for cataracts. All of these things are important. And the eyes, it's a bit of a cliche. It's the window to your soul. It's also the window to your brain and to your overall health. So you can, by looking in the eye, you can quickly detect if someone has diabetes. You can see from the what the retina looks like. You can assess, and you can really assess a person's health through an eye exam. So the concept of health and eye exam is very important, but the idea of being able to do a test at home to screen your vision, the idea that you can maybe test your vision at home and then order eyeglasses online, that got into a change in the process in the USA. And so we're working through that right now. We're working with the regulators, the FDA. We've set up a telemedicine service that we're doing, where each state has its own laws on it. It's a very interesting, somewhat complex field. And point is, though, that as we develop these ideas and there's gradual acceptance, this is a huge market because a lot of people don't get eye exams. There's millions and millions of people in the US who are not seeing well. What happens? They get into car accidents, they fall downstairs, they don't do well at school. There's a whole host of things that limits their life. And there's literally on the order of maybe 30–40% of the population doesn't get a chance to go see an eye doctor very easily. This is a big problem, and extend that to the world. It's even more dramatic.
Huge.
So it's huge.
So what sounds like simply a technical solution to a human problem can potentially make a significant impact to humanity overall. When we think about the purpose of your company.
That's
And I value,
absolutely.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Deb.
No, I could see the passion
Forgive
come
me. I
through.
do sometimes, jump in and I cut people off. So forgive me for that.
No, but we're good. But
You're
again,
absolutely right.
yeah, it's
One thing is think about the internet and think about, for example, banking.
yeah.
15, 20 years ago, online banking was really starting. A lot of people were reluctant and nervous about it. But now, when was the last time you went into the bank and met the teller and gave the money? It's pretty rare. Most people do all their banking online. That's similar for many other industries. This is happening now in the medical world. So the idea of having to travel to a doctor, go and sit in the waiting room, no, you don't have to do that. So this is, again, the normal evolution of a technological society is we're moving into the stage of being able to bring these vision tests to the home. This is like we've brought, online dating. Do people actually meet anymore? Not online? I mean, that might be an accident, but typically people meet online and
My son's
stuff
new
happens.
wife, they met online and then in
Yeah,
person.
I mean,
But
I met my wife online, for example. I was
it
one of the
worked.
pioneers, so
But it's so interesting. And again, when I talk about this in manufacturing and industry, when we bring in a way to automate something, people get scared. And instead, we need to take this as an opportunity, one, to understand when they did things manually or the old way, what was their value in that profession, in that particular function. Take their knowledge, apply it to those new solutions, show humanity that we care and we value them. And then what can we do to preserve their their pride and maybe repurpose or re-educate their skills. I mean, it's one of those things. I was talking to another CEO who's trying to use AI to automate the whole in processing so that a healthcare provider can spend more time with the patient and connect at a human level and show empathy and concern versus triage and here's a pill or here's an order. So it's almost maybe giving us back time to connect with people while we use this automation.
And this is exactly right. You know, the technology allows you to solve problems, to do things in an easier way. It's easier, it's more cost effective. If that happens, the technology will eventually win over, say, some staged manual method of something. And it brings you to automation. In a way, IQ has a facet of automation about that, or at least a simplification process, in that you are able to test your vision at home as many times as you want. It opens up new diagnostic pathways when you can do that. And it's just something that's extremely doable. And it will eventually happen. And I'm hoping that that will be IQ that brings it into the mass market. But it will eventually happen, even if it's not IQ.
And it brings peace of mind. I mean, my mother, diabetic, and now has a device and her, phone can tell her when she needs to take her medicine or drink more water or what have you, potentially has a better quality of life because of technology. So again, giving people a better quality of life when we can embrace it and educate people on the value. And then how can we repurpose humanity to maybe do other things? So love this. I'd love
This
to
is so
just
true.
go move this in another conversation because you have such broad global perspective on some topics, and we hit on one that I really wanted to bring forward, and it was about human evolution and Earth's resources. There's a huge political divide, lots of controversy about the Earth's resources and how can we support humanity. And I would love to know your unique perspective for my audience.
Okay. Uh, I'm a I'm a technical optimist, and there's a lot of people who would not think that my position is a good one. And I'm going to be devoting more time and effort to exploring this following hypothesis. Is I actually believe that all of us on Earth can live an excellent life. So with improved healthcare, improved nutrition, improved safety, um, everybody can live in a nice house. Okay. Now there's this concept that the earth is limited, and indeed it is. Okay. But I believe we haven't hit those limits yet. So uh, you get into this issue of, well, how much energy is hitting the earth? So if you were to look at the amount of sunlight that's coming in, we're all solar powered. You and I are solar powered creatures, right?
I love the
Because
sun. I feel
we eat
energized with
food.
the sun.
Yeah,
Yes.
we eat food, and where does that food come from? It comes from ultimately photosynthesis that then was processed in various ways. There's a lot more energy available. Now, the Earth's climate is indeed changing. Okay. Now, it's going to change, and there's not much we can do about it. Now, that's man-made, but as a technical optimist, I actually believe we'll be able to manage that and take advantage of that. Okay, so there will be more storms. I'm sitting now in a storm in California that's amazingly big. It's going to happen, but it can be managed. Okay, we can manage the amount of sunlight hitting the earth. So I have this very optimistic view of things, and I believe that everybody can live better. What needs to be done is to prove that, and to the political leaders, the social leaders of various countries, of societies, need to embrace that idea and say, maybe we can make life better. And I just want to go back to a historical perspective. Look at how we all live today. We live a lot better than the average human lived 100 years ago, where, even in the United States, the average age at around 1900 may have been maybe 50 years old, maybe 60. Now we're up to approaching 80 years old. And so we've made vast improvements. And you made the point, we can make life better for everybody. This is a key. And so there needs to be this optimism, and we need to be thinking of this as a society. How do we continue to improve? There are forces, there's regulations, there's dangers for doing things too fast. So it's a complicated issue. But basically, coming back, I'm a physicist. Simple principles. From first principles, you can show that the Earth can sustain a lot more and we can benefit from it. So this is very much against a lot of concepts that people have. I'm ready to, in a year or two, go to battle on this topic with various people who will say, well, we know humans, there's too many humans, there's too much human biomass around. We need to reduce that amount. We're killing off too many, other forms of life. And there is a truth to that. But the point is, we could do better. We can manage that better. So we can have more life. We can have more variety, more ecosystems, a better fauna in the world. We have to manage it. It's all doable. The energy is there. The material resources are there. We have to use our brains, our structures as a society to pull that off. That's my belief.
And we need more optimism in the world with so much divisiveness, regulation,
Yeah.
and media that's not always for good purpose. But I think just this podcast, listening to you speak and express your views, I'm hoping all of my listeners can come away feeling a stronger sense of optimism with humanity, that we've done so much in the past and there is so much more ahead of us, from innovation to disruption. Um, we will survive, we will thrive. And I am so excited that I found you, brought you onto the show. But
Well,
I want to start bringing this in, John. And again, for anybody out there, please, reach out to him on LinkedIn, John Serri, and check out EyeQue. He's not just a technical leader. He's not just a CEO, but I think he's written the next chapter of humanity. And by the way, you probably should write a few books about what you believe in.
I,
But I want to hand the mic over to you one last time to share any closing thoughts with our audience.
I'm about the books. I am working on it. I've had a few people approach me about writing books on various topics, including an autobiography, because my path is not quite the normal path. But uh, what I do want to say is, one of the points is, be so thankful for what you have and for the people that helped you. I can tell you, we don't appreciate it enough. And if you run into somebody that says, I did it all on my own, no, they didn't. No one does it on their own. So uh, respect, help those who have helped you. And I think that's so important in business. And in business, the other thing I want to say is, be patient. So a lot of times there's dark moments, there's problems that pop up of all sorts, and you don't know when they're going to happen. It's sort of like you're in a video game, and all of a sudden, some other obstacle falls on your head that you weren't expecting. Yeah, it's going to happen, but be patient. And if you really believe in what you're doing, persist, because there's tremendous things. And as you said, one of the things that I found in my own life is, when I'm optimistic, and I haven't always been optimistic, when I'm optimistic and I'm a nicer person, things go much better than when I'm pessimistic and not a nice person. I mean, I can document it all. It's incredible. So there's just so much to life. Enjoy it, enjoy your work, help people. The other thing too is, if you go into this stuff in terms of business, make sure it's a good idea, but make sure you're helping society. Make sure you're helping people. This is not just about you or making money. And if you have that approach, maybe most people don't have that approach, but it's not about, it's not pure materialism, pure self-benefit. I don't think that will get you very far. Although some people, may take exception with that. But in general, just try to get out there, try to help, and do your best. That's all I
Um,
can say.
So inspiring, John. And I've had a very, very long day, and was getting a little tired, but just spending time with you, having you share your insights with my audience was exceptionally uplifting. And I hope for everybody that was listening, you've enjoyed this conversation. I want to just say thank you, John, from the bottom of my heart for dropping in on the podcast. And I want to wish you well and continued success.
Deborah, once again, thank you again for giving me the opportunity for this. And you've done a great job keeping me on a somewhat guided path. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.